Principled humanitarian actions are key to how organizations and individuals operate in the field. Without this framework, without this guidance, it would be chaos. And that's why we have to make sure that everyone is aware of those principles and uphold those principles when operating in the field.
Principled humanitarian action is all about what are the drivers that lead towards you making a decision about any given situation.
I think the main reason we follow these principles is because if we didn't, we know that we wouldn't be able to get to the populations who are most in need. If we're going to get to the populations most in need, we need to be able to convince belligerents, parties to conflict, that we are neutral, we are impartial, we are only responding to the needs.
Humanitarian principles developed out of the practice of humanitarian actors, out of their experience. So they are not an abstract code of ideas, it's a living thing.
Humanitarian principles should be the frame of reference for all organizations operating in the humanitarian sector. But it is a Western construct, and it's important to contextualize wherever you work.
In some cases, you have to look carefully at how you implement these principles in practice. And you may need to take into account local sensitivities, local power structures, local cultural influences. So how do you manage all these things which impinge on your ability to act? You have to take into account these while still adhering to the principles.
As someone who's been involved in operational decision making, you do make choices which at times give you the sense that you are actually prioritising one aspect of the principles over another. There is, a discussion to be had, and I don't pretend to have a solution to it, but there's a discussion to be had about whether there is in fact a hierarchy to these principles, or whether in fact what we need to do is strive to keep all four of them at the same level, bearing in mind that overarching imperative to save lives and relieve suffering.
The humanitarian principles should act as a compass for humanitarian actors to operate in very difficult environments. But at the same time, it set limits.
The current situation around the world make it very difficult to always apply those principles, despite the framework that we have.
Because we are neutral, we cannot take part in certain political controversies. Because we want to provide humanitarian impartial aids, then we need to reach out to those most in need. And the parties to armed conflicts may put us under pressure and put limits to our actions because they would like us to take sides with them, or they would like us to help certain categories of victims. And humanitarian actors have to be aware of these constraints so that they don't fall into the logic of the warring parties.
There is a tendency towards less principles and more partiality. Whether that is a good thing, I certainly don't think so, because effectively what that means sacrificing the populations in areas that we can't get to. For example, we sacrifice access or assistance, protection to populations in areas controlled by armed opposition groups because they are labelled terrorists by particular states. I think that's an extremely dangerous ground to get onto, because the whole point of the humanitarian enterprise, as far as I'm concerned, is to say that one human life is the same in value as any other.
It's important that actors engage in humanitarian activities not only claim that they act impartially, independently, or that they are neutral, but they actually do it and prove it through their action.
You have a lot of many organizations that have senior leaders that don't know about the principles. So it's a matter of education. When you join an organization, this should be part of your onboarding.
Our ability to effectively communicate humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, that's very much core to how successful we'll be in negotiating access to the areas that we need to get to.
We live in a world where there is instant communication and parties to conflicts know about what we are doing in different parts of the world. So it's very important that they see us walking the talk and respecting those principles across geographical contexts, and also that we are a predictable, reliable organization. So really these principles are key to establish trust with all parties to a conflict.